Hello and welcome to Landscape Photography World, the podcast for everyone passionate about landscape photography. I'm Grant Swinburne and I'll be your host on this show, talking to landscape photographers about their motivations, likes and dislikes. Have you heard that the inaugural Landscape Photography World Awards is now open for entries? Early bird entry is available now at a discounted fee until September 30, 2022. Head to landscapephotographyworldawards.com to find out all the details and how to enter. There's some amazing prizes to be won, and I'll be publishing a book and a calendar with the top images at the end of the competition, so there's plenty to look forward to. Entries close on November 30, 2022, so there's plenty of time to get your entry sorted, but if you want to get into the early birds, do it now. I'd also like to thank the judges who have agreed to work with me and be a big part of the awards. Deb Clark, Victoria Hark, Kieran Stone and William Patino. I certainly couldn't make this competition a reality without their support. This time I'm talking to Paul Killeen from Belfast in Northern Ireland. Making images throughout Ireland and abroad, Paul's passion is to capture ethereal beauty in his work, often driven by mood and emotion to create something beautiful. A purist at heart, the goal for Paul has always been to get an image right in camera. His work has been featured in various landscape photography magazine publications. He's also won World Landscape Photographer of the Year 2022. He was shortlisted in the same competition in 2020 and won UK Landscape Photographer of the Year in 2016. Paul is not only passionate about creating images to first and foremost please himself, he's passionate in helping others develop their photography, taking great satisfaction in seeing others improve and progress. We discuss how his award-winning image came about, his favourite locations around Ireland, and a whole lot more. I hope you enjoy the show. Hi Paul, welcome to the show. How are you going?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm not too bad. I've had a busy day, busy family day after work, so it's good. It's good to get a break and come on the show and have a chat about photography.
Oh, thanks very much for taking the time to do so. How about you start with who you are and what got you started in landscape photography?
My name is Paul Killeen. I'm a landscape photographer from Belfast in Northern Ireland. All of my education that I excelled in, which was just art, it's always been sort of geared towards photography and being creative and stuff. So after secondary school, I went to college and then I went to art college, and I always had a keen interest in photography, and that developed on from there. I think I graduated from art college in 2003 and I fell into an office job and didn't do anything creative. And then about 7 years later in 2010, I was going on city breaks with my then girlfriend, which is now wife, and I was borrowing my dad's digital SLR and taking images which I thought were good at the time, which were not so good looking back, but just on auto, but using a tripod and stuff, and coming home, and I entered a couple of competitions in the local camera club when I joined in 2010 and didn't do too well. So I thought, right, okay, let's get back into this sort of thing and see where we can go.
Okay, fair enough. So do you find that's one of your biggest motivations, or, you know, what's, I guess, behind the motivation and the desire to create, artistic photography?
I think it's all I've ever been good at, art and drawing when I was younger, and then obviously going to university and I did visual communications, and I find a lot of my projects were sort of the medium I was using was photography, be it pinhole, be it Polaroids, be it film back in the day, and I always used photography as a medium. So I'm not sure why I had the 7-year break after art college. You just fall into a job and you get stuck in a rut, and you're going out and you're having fun.
Life happens.
Life happens, yeah. But joining the camera club in 2010, it sort of spurred me on. So when I did the first couple of images and didn't do too well, and I thought they were good images, I asked a couple of the advanced members for feedback, and they pointed out a few criticisms, and I thought, right, okay, well, there's a couple of guys here in the advanced section that are winning all of the competitions. So I thought, I'm in here as a beginner. I've never taken a photograph on manual, and I'm going to start this weekend, and I'm going to focus on rising sort of through the ranks in the camera club. And and being crowned Advanced Worker of the Year. So that was the target then and the goal. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So I guess one of the things that I've always found, and it's sometimes hard to get, is, if you want to improve your photography, getting that advice about, not necessarily what's wrong, though that helps, but what you can do to improve. How important was that advice to you in making some of the improvements that you've made?
Yeah, when I joined the Camera Club, I think one of the advanced members in particular could see I had a passion for it, and I had the eye. After a couple of competitions later, when I got a couple of placements in the beginner section, he could see I had something. And I don't know, I think coming from art college, I had a bit of a slight ego. I've been to art college, I can take a good photograph.
Yep.
But when you join and you're mixing with more experienced photographers, you need to sort of soak up everything ones with more experience is saying. You just be like a sponge, So that's what I did. So I let them take me under my wing. We would have went out for a couple of shoots every sort of month, landscape shoots, and I would just take their advice on board and take what they say as gospel for the first sort of year and a half, 2 years in the club. And I was rapidly improving then. So I moved up to the intermediate section and I was winning competitions there as well. So yeah, I mean, I've never understood photographers who don't take on board what a more experienced and better quality photographer is saying. If it's going to improve your work, take it on board. You will eventually reach a level where you can sort of stand on your own 2 feet and go, well, no, I like this for this reason. And then there's even more personal development there. But I would always take on board what somebody said. Even now, if somebody's coming at me as a better photographer, I would take it on board.
Yeah,
but with open arms, because why not? I don't think anybody's a finished article. Everybody can improve.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things you said there, around taking that advice on board is important. But I guess also then shaping that to your own sort of vision. How have you sort of used the advice that you've got to shape your style? And I guess first off, how would you describe your style? We'll start there and then we'll move on to how that's evolved, I guess.
A lot of my landscape work would be long exposure. I've always had a thing for long exposures, so probably moody long exposures would be my style. It's a lot of my work would be based on more like emotion. And rather, like I'm not so much interested in gear. I'm not so much interested in camera settings. It doesn't really. I won't say it doesn't interest me because you need to know certain things, obviously, to reach a certain level of ability. But I'm more about a mood and emotion. Like I'd be going to a location, I'd be sticking on a playlist of music, and maybe that's going to sort of influence how I'm going to shoot or what I want to shoot when I get to the location. Sure. Lots of things would inspire me, but yeah, I kind of forgot the question.
Now, I guess really wanting to understand the shaping of that creative vision. How have you started to evolve your style from where you sort of started out as in the camera club as a beginner to becoming I mean you've recently just won the World Landscape Photography competition run by Nigel Danson and a few others. Can you tell us how that image came about and how that has been sort of a culmination of that development of your style?
Yeah, that image, it wasn't really planned as such. It was planned and it wasn't planned. It was a lucky shot. Anybody can see that image. You don't go and plan that image. It just that happens, and I was lucky enough to be able to set my camera settings and capture it at the time. So the story behind the image is a wee bit emotional. One of my wife's friends, Lindsay, she suffered from brain tumor, and she passed away after battling cancer for 5 years. And as a landscape photographer, you know this, Grant, you're always watching the forecast and you're watching the conditions. So the Dark Ages is an iconic location that's been in Game of Thrones and all of that. I've never seen Game of Thrones, but so I'm told.
I've been there. Really hard to take a photo without people in it too.
Have you been? Yeah, have you been there?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
it's probably hard to take a photo of it without birds as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Lindsay passed away on the 11th of April last year, 2021, and her funeral was the 14th of April. And I was just checking the weather forecast the night before, the 13th, and it had obviously forecast for fog and mist, which is a conditions that I've always wanted to shoot a location at. And back when I started out, I always used to use wide angle lenses solely and go wide or go home, you know. And more in more recent years, I've had a longer lens and stuff, using the 70 to 300. So that was one of the sort of images that I had in mind for using that lens with, to condense the trees. So when the forecast for mist was there, I asked my wife Laura, would she mind making up, because I would give her the call, because obviously the morning funeral she wasn't in a great place, but she must have wanted me out of the house. So she said, go on ahead and go on up before work. So I headed on up the road for an hour up the road and got to the location. And I was shooting, and I think there was another photographer or two there, typical of the dark edges. They never stayed about too long. They got a couple of images with the fog, and they headed on. And the classic shot is shooting in the middle of the road, and for me, it's the best shot. That's the only shot. You know, I don't like it off to the side. It's not as pleasing. And two little birds popped up on the side of the road, and I was like, yeah, okay. Some of these settings here are giving me for like a number of seconds. If these things flying, I'm not getting anything sharp. So whacked up the ISO and adjusted the f-stop and all that kind of thing, and got it to sort of 1/30th, I think, of a second. And the birds moved from the right hand side of the road to the left hand side of the road on the bottom on the road. And I just stood my ground for another sort of 4 or 5 minutes, and eventually they just fluttered up into the middle of the road where you see in the image, and I got lucky. And I got it. There's a couple of other shots where the shape of the birds look like two plastic bags flying in the wind. So we could probably shoot 100 of them and get lucky and get one. I shot 3 and I managed to get lucky and get one. So but as soon as I seen the image, I thought of Lindsay and Simon, her husband, and I come up with the title "Souls Tied" straight away. So I thought I seen it in the back of the camera, and I was like, zoom in here to check that the birds are adequately sharp and right enough. Like there's blurring of the wings, but I like that. It added to the sort of mood.
Yeah, I think that blurring adds to the dynamism of the image, if anything.
Yeah, I thought it made it sort of look a bit spookier, sort of ethereal looking. So but the heads of the birds were sharp, and that's what I wanted. So I was driving back down the road to log on to the computer for work before we went to the funeral, and I phoned the wife, and my wife was like, "You're not going to believe this, the shot I've got this morning." I said, "I think it could be a really special shot," and I explained to her what had happened, and she said, "Geez, that's like Lindsay and Simon." So she was thinking along the same lines as me. So I think I was probably meant to go there that morning, and I think the shot was meant for me. You know, it was just a lucky shot. So.
It's got to say it's a brilliant shot. I guess obviously the birds themselves are opportunistic. Do you often go into the field with the concept of what it is that you're looking for, or do you tend to go and react to what's going on in the landscape when you get into the field? So I guess, how much do you put down to planning? How much do you put down to opportunism? Not just for that shot, but in general.
No, I would plan quite a lot. I would use apps for weather and tide. I like seascape photography with long exposure.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to have a bit of movement in the water, or at times make it go like glass. So I would plan tide times, weather apps, and all sorts. So for instance, I'm going to a location in Donegal tomorrow evening after work, which is a 3-hour drive away, with 2 photography friends, and I'm planning for that there. So it's this time of year where the nights are slightly longer, that you're getting the sunset at the right time. It's a place called Horn Head, and it's just a massive sea arch, and it's stunning. You follow me on Twitter, so I'll stick a video up tomorrow when I'm up. You maybe see it tomorrow morning. It's an absolute, it's very Jurassic looking, so it is. It's amazing. I've been 6 times last year and never managed to get the image I wanted. So I'm hoping it happens tomorrow. I was up again there last week, and yeah, I never got the image as well, but I'll keep going back to get it. Often I plan, but rarely. Again, you know yourself, when you're shooting landscape stuff, you can plan all you want, but sometimes the elements have a different idea. So again, you know, it's about reacting to that.
Yeah, I think, you know, sometimes that, as you said, you know, with your award-winning shot, you've got to react to what's going on. But, you know, sometimes I think the planning that you put in, being there at the right time with the right conditions is one of the key things. Is that something that I guess you've, you know, taken on board as advice from others, or is that something that you've just sort of stumbled into?
Yeah, well, I think when you're doing this, I sort of started properly taking photographs in 2010. So it seems like yesterday, but it seems like years ago, and so it's 12 years. After a while, you sort of develop that skill a wee bit, you know. But I mean, all of the planning in the world and the reacting. Sometimes the conditions don't just give you what you want, and you're having to go locations a number of times, like the Hornhead tomorrow night.
Yeah,
fingers crossed it works. But yeah, sometimes all the reacting in the world, I would be very, very hard to please. And I would be my own harshest critic. You know, I would always sort of be super critical of my own work. There's not a lot of my work that I genuinely love. Like, I hear people coming on podcasts all the time, and
yeah,
they love quite a lot of what they shoot. I don't know. I don't know what it is with me. I'd be very self-critical and never really satisfied. There's probably only a few images in my portfolio that I sit back and go, yeah, that's good.
yeah,
you know. But it's one of those ones. You know, that's maybe a personality thing.
Yeah, no, that's great. What about your favourite spots? I mean, obviously, Hornhead, as you said, is you know, a biggie for you that you're still chasing. Are there any others that you sort of find yourself drawn back to just because they're, you know, I mean, they might be iconic or not, but are there any favourite spots that you've got that you know, you just have to go to? You keep getting called back to.
In Ireland, yeah, there's loads. Like, there's Donegal's full of places. There's Malin Head and Donegal. It's Ireland's most northerly point. It's there's a classic shot there of an image there from a few years ago that I have in my portfolio, and I was there again the other week as well, trying to better that. But again, it's the right time of the year when the evenings are long and the sun's setting in the right spot to get the side light and stuff. And you've maybe a number of weeks to get it. But having a newborn child, you know, you can't just get up and go 3 hours away as often as I would have done maybe 2 months ago before he was born. But Connemara and Donegal, or Connemara and County Galway, stunning as well. If you've seen images of there, a few of there as well. The north coast of Ireland, stunning as well. There's the like of Dunluce Castle, there's Giant's Causeway, Ballycastle, Musselin Temple, Downhill Beach. Yeah, there's loads all over Ireland. So
yeah. No, I think you know, you certainly live in a beautiful part of the world. I did a visit over there a few years ago, pre-COVID. Unfortunately, I was based mainly down in the south of Ireland, so you know, lots of shots of the Ring of Kerry. We did a day trip up into Northern Ireland, went to the Giant's Causeway and Carrick-a-Reid and that sort of thing, and it was probably the foggiest day for months. So got to the Giant's Causeway, you couldn't see more than about 3 or 4 feet in front of you. So it was kind of, as a photography trip, wasn't so great.
So you couldn't see all of the tourists then?
Well, you could hear them around you, and you could sort of see these dim shapes moving around in the fog. But
sounds like a horror film.
You couldn't see the sea. You couldn't see the
Giant's Causeway. The Giant's Causeway is a funny one because it's a sunset shot. You know, there's no doubt about it. But the amount of tourists there all over the stones and stuff, whenever you're taking an image, it's off-putting. So I think on the winter months, I would go back up this month to maybe try and get a moody image at sunrise whenever there's nobody about. You know, just something a little bit different. It's quite hard to compose an image in the Giant's Causeway. It's almost like when you're in the forest and you can't see the wood through the trees. It's just very, very hard to find a decent composition. You find a lot of landscape photographers use 3 or 4 set compositions at the Giant's Causeway, and not you don't see too much else, you know. You were saying you were in Kerry. I don't know how I forgot about Kerry. Kerry's absolutely stunning, and Dingle and down that way, you know, it's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. But had some really nice conditions down there. You know, there was a little bit of fog, but it was mostly down in some of the valleys, as opposed to being everywhere and all over my shot, which was, you know, a little annoying for you know, that. Unfortunately, as I said, it was just a 1-day deal, so I couldn't sort of get back up there, unfortunately. But yeah,
if you're ever back in Ireland, give me a shout and we'll meet up for a shoot, definitely.
Absolutely, that sounds great. Thank you. I guess obviously that influences what you shoot. Do you find that, you know, living where you do, does that influence how you shoot as well? So is it mostly seascapes and the coastline, or mountains, or, you know, I guess what is it that I guess you find that where you live influences how you shoot?
When I first took up the backup photography in 2010, I joined the Camera Club. The consensus of the Camera Club is like, well, you got to shoot everything because we want to compete against other camera clubs. But when I joined the Camera Club, I really just wanted to shoot landscape. Yep. I was kind of intrigued by long exposure. It was brand photography magazines and soaking up everything that was in the articles there and the tips there, as well as it was in the Camera Club. And at the time, I was seeing a lot of long exposure. I was like, oh, I want to try that. I want to get filters. I'll get lead filters and I'll create my own ones, kind of thing, of locations close to me, you know, that are, I suppose, iconic for somebody over here.
How much of your success would you attribute to your ability to communicate well?
I don't know. I don't know, honestly. I don't know that I really had much success either. I just like making images. I don't like the standard landscape image. I like to put mood and feeling into an image. So I suppose in terms of my work and stuff and communicating, I don't like bright and breezy and, you know, those sort of Simpsons, blue sky, white clouds kind of thing. I would much rather have changeable mood conditions. So I suppose if you want to sort of link that to my work, and I don't know if it's my personality or either, because I'm pretty happy family life and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
I'm terrible.
No, it's all good, mate. I guess, how are you finding now with your new baby, balancing, you know, lifestyle with your photography? You know, are you a full-time photographer, or are you doing it on the side?
No, I have a full-time job, still working an office job, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday kind of thing. 2 days in the office, 3 in the house because of COVID still, but I also have a weekend job as well. So yeah, which is 12-hour shifts. So there's not a lot of free time. That was all before the baby, and now of course our baby Levi is born as well. So there's even less time. And you've that constant. You have children, can't you?
Yeah. Oh, well, they're all adults now. Three girls. They're I think the oldest.
Lucky you. You can get out and photograph them.
Yeah, well, I can.
So
now,
you know you've got that. You know you've got that constant state of just
I've also packed in full-time work, so I can. I got plenty of time to go out and shoot whenever I want.
Keep rubbing it in, sure. Yeah, keep rubbing it in. Yeah. So you know that sort of constant, like 6 out of 10 tiredness kind of thing, where you're. But Levi's 8 weeks old and on Saturday coming, and I think I've been out 3 times. Tomorrow will be my 4th time. Night shooting, but this will be my 3rd. With 3 of the 4 times I've been out at sort of proper locations. You know, one was just a local location, so I'm finding it's severely limited. But we've a week booked in Connemara for the end of September, so we have the in-laws coming down. It was a tactical invite so that they could do a bit of babysitting and me and my wife could maybe go to the pub some night, and I'll be up for sunrise and be doing sunset every day we're away, So with an extra 2 pair of hands to sort of look after Levi while I can indulge in a bit of photography to keep me.
Take advantage of it, mate. It makes all the difference having that extra set of hands around.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Connemara, and I would hope to sort of try and nail a few shots, in the bag that I'm personally sort of pleased with before then. So yeah. It's tough not getting out as much. I won't lie. It's especially if it's your passion. Like it's not my job. It's not. I don't call it a hobby. I call it a passion, because if I'm not making new images, I'm kind of bored of sharing old images repeatedly on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that. I'd rather be out making images, and it's the same as making images. Like I'd rather be out in field on location, traveling to location, that sort of buzz, that excitement, the thrill of the chase, than I would be sitting at a computer processing an image as well.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about that. I guess we'll start off with how you work in the field. What are you looking for when you get into the fields? I mean, assuming it's somewhere that you've not been before and you're trying to scout an image, what sort of things are you driving for and looking for to incorporate into a shot?
I'll be honest, I don't mind if it's like a classic, they call them honeypot. It doesn't bother me to have a honeypot sort of location and a honeypot shot like Malin Head. Yep. Because I know if it's an image that pleases me at the end of the day, it's quality. Because again, I'll come back to it being so hard to please. I've scouted location, look on social media, not just other photographers' stuff, but standard sort of iPhone snaps from random people, because sometimes you'll see an iPhone snap from a random person of a random location. Think I could. There's a shot there somewhere, so you can go and you can sort of scope it out, and might take a few visits, but you could get an image out of it. Sometimes images that are unplanned. At sort of local locations are the most rewarding, because it's just been gifted to you. It's not like a Dark Hedges, or it's not like a Giant's Causeway or Connemara. Nothing big. It's just a nice little shot of a woodland scene or something like a minimalist seascape, and sometimes that can turn you on as much as a honeypot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what about when you get into the field itself? Are you dropping the tripod where you think you should and getting snapping, or are you hunting around a little bit longer before you get into shooting and taking your time about it?
Sometimes you get to a location and there's like quite limited sort of images of what you can take, and sometimes there's a good handful. So I'll stick the tripod down on the floor and the camera bag down, and I'll have a wander about and stuff, and then I'll do a second sort of wander about with the camera in my hand, sort of checking out different focal lengths and stuff, and trying to work the foreground and stuff, and obviously the background to complete the image. But I'll do that there, and then I'll sort of probably settle on a shot, and you'll be taking a few images, and then you think, and then you're looking in the back of the camera and you're zooming in, and it's like, no, there's something here that I'm not quite happy with. So you're moving
might be slightly out of balance or whatever. Yep.
Yeah, or just sometimes it's just like one little rock or something that annoys me, and that's it. Like, it's like if you're shooting a long exposure and the clouds are streaking, but I like the clouds, and I don't like any light parts of any of the corners of the image. I like if it's a heavy sort of moody sky, it has to be of down over the holes. It has to be sort of bringing it down in, So tiny things will annoy me and stuff. And I'll not sort of clone sort of things out or anything, or add things in and post-production is sort of as in camera, so that's the way it would work.
Cool. So I'll ask you a little bit about the processing. Do you're straight in? Pardon me. I'll ask you a bit about the processing. You're straight into it and editing as soon as you get them home, or are you taking your time about it and leaving it? I mean, some photographers I've spoken to won't look at an image for months before they start editing, and even then it might be several edits over a period. Are you one of those sorts of photographers, or are you one that gets into it, gets it done, leaves it.
So the end thing to say on Instagram is stick it up in your story and say, let it marinate. And then people will let it marinate for all of 2 days and then post it on Instagram. It depends on very, very rarely would I edit straight away. Going back to what I said earlier on, I much prefer to be out in field shooting. That's where I get real enjoyment, Post-processing, I put post-process on a MacBook Pro, which is, I think, 9 years old. So it sounds like an airplane at the moment. And I'm on my wife's work computer doing the Zoom because there's something wrong with the sound in mine. It runs really slow. I think to do a 20-minute edit on my MacBook Pro at the moment, you're talking it could take 2 to 3 hours. So
wow.
I jump straight into post-processing, but I never really have. I did sort of in the earlier days, when I was sort of first starting out the first couple of years, but in the last sort of 5, sort of 6, 7 years, I've sort of let them sit any time between sort of a couple of weeks and a couple of months. I was out in February with a good friend Michael shooting the snow up in the Belfast hills, and I think I got a decent little shot there. But they're loaded onto the computer and then they're moved off the computer to create space on the external hard drive. But I haven't even looked at them yet.
Wow. Okay.
I'll maybe leave it to November or something when people are sick of snowy shots. I'll edit it then.
Stick up the autumn shots in spring.
My stuff's all over the place. So
I'm a bit like that. I mean, I don't think there's anything better than running through your old shots, particularly some of the ones that when you initially looked at them, you thought, oh yeah, it's a secondary shot. I'll get back to that maybe, but coming back to it, months later or even years later in some cases and going, yeah, I'll take another look at that and, coming up and going, yeah, well, that's actually better than the one I thought was, the top shot.
Yeah. we were in New York in 2018. I think it was February 18. Or was it 17? I think it was 18. And I was in the Guggenheim. We went to the Guggenheim because I'd wanted to go in and shoot a wee bit of architecture, high key stuff. Mm-hmm. And of course we went and it was closed because of a bank holiday or something. So we went into the gift shop and looking up straight away, I could see an image, and I asked the guy, it was just us in the gift shop, and I asked the guy, can I lay on the ground and get my tripod out? And he's like, yeah, work away, go on ahead. So I shot that image and I never did anything with it. And I was sitting bored one night a couple of years later during lockdown. I think it was mid 2020, and I was like, look through old shots to see if there's anything I can polish up, edit, and got a good image out of it. Like, it's a nice high key sort of architecture thing. So sometimes a bit of a pair of fresh eyes is good.
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes letting it, sit and gestate for a while actually helps, because it clears your head from the experience that you had. Because, I normally come home, and if I know I've got a really, banging shot, I'm quite excited to get into it and edit it. But sometimes, kicking back and just leaving it for a while, I find it helps me sort of clear my head of the excitement, and then you get back into a more, I guess, hard-nosed edit around, okay, what's good, what's bad, what do I need to crop out, what do I need to keep in, what am I doing with those tones and the contrasts and so forth?
I agree.
Do I do my? Sorry?
The time of day. I think the time of day when you're editing as well, I like to sort of edit not on bright sunny days. Obviously, you have the blinds closed and stuff, but when you're processing, but I think it's sort of, again, like sort of maybe in an evening well, I was going to say this kind of like, but it's sort of getting dark now, sort of that would be the kind of time, you can just sit and sort of and relax and do it. Sort of, I think when things are too bright, it sort of affects it. I've done that before and I've edited, and that means when it's been too bright, and then all of a sudden I've looked at it sort of in an evening, sort of in a duller room. It's like,
yeah.
No, that's all off.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. It's amazing how much difference, as you say, just the lighting in the room can make to, not just your mood, but also how you, how you sort of bring the edit around, And for me, it's really that, take your time, look at it a few times. There's plenty of stuff that I put on the Instagram which are just, quick edits. I shot this yesterday or today or whatever, and I'm excited to share it, but I know it's not my best work, but that's not necessary. I'm not one of those sort of portfolio, what do you call it, curated, photographers where, they're only putting their portfolio shots up. I will put up pretty much anything that I think is worth a look, whether it gets lots of likes or not. I don't really care. It's more, here's my stuff. Here's what I'm working on. Sometimes it'll just be a work in progress, and I'll go, this is, what I want to show you today.
I think with the likes on social media, it's like it's all sort of, who cares, because it's throwaway. You'd be scrolling through Instagram, yourself. You could, if somebody, it means more to me if somebody stops and actually makes see all these sort of like awesome or stunning, that or just a comment that's an emoji. Like, it doesn't really mean anything. I think if somebody's putting on a thoughtful comment or something, they've actually showing that they've actually looked at the image, means an awful lot more than, say, 500 or 1,000 likes or whatever. Because it's all so fast tracked. The social media. Will anybody really remember my shot that they've seen 2 minutes earlier? Probably not. For the most part, like, I'm sort of honest about it, because that's not just me, like most photographers, as well. I think it's just the way it is. It moves so fast, especially on Twitter. Like, you blink and you would miss loads on Twitter.
Absolutely, yeah. And the algorithms aren't helping anyone either, because particularly on Instagram, I don't know what your standard feed's like. I've started using the following feed almost exclusively on Instagram, simply because that
I didn't even know about that. I sort of
so you tap on the Instagram logo at the top, and then it says following underneath, and tap that, and that actually gives you a more chronological feed.
All right, okay.
Whereas
like kind of like it used to be.
Yeah, it's more like what it used to be. It's not 100%, but it's better than the standard feed, because the standard feed I find is full of reels and ads, and I rarely see photographers that I follow.
So if you do what you've said there, do you get less sort of adverts?
I wouldn't say you get less ads, but
that's terrible. But I've never
you tend to see more. Yeah, you tend to see more of who you follow, as opposed to all of the reels and whatever. Unless who you follow is just posting reels, obviously. But
I've never understood algorithm in any sort of social media. I kind of ditched. I had a Facebook page that has sort of, I don't know what it has, something like 7,000 followers, and you post an image, and anything from, I think it was in around about 2014. Anything after the end of 2014, when you post an image, it was maybe getting 16 likes, and I don't know how it's getting 16 likes if you've X amount of followers, which isn't a grand amount of followers, but like you should get. It just means nobody's seeing it. So at that point, Facebook were looking you to pay them money to promote your work to people that have actually liked your page. So I sort of gave up on Facebook totally and went over to Instagram. I had an Instagram and gave it up like a personal one, just snaps of family stuff, and then I went back into it 2000, maybe 13, 14, and it's sort of, I see a lot of it, Instagram getting a lot of negative press, but it's going a bit like TikTok and videos and all that kind of crap. So I've had a Twitter for years and years, and I've only started using it sort of daily since January. So
no, I started would have been about 2010, I think, on Twitter, and photography wasn't a thing on Twitter back then, so didn't see a lot. Followed comedians and news and that sort of thing, and very rarely posted. It was mostly just me, consuming stuff. Very rarely.
I like news and stuff.
Yeah, I might make a comment here and there, but very, very rarely. But when photography Twitter sort of blew up a year or so ago, obviously started to find and follow a lot more photographers, and I mean, it's one of the reasons why I found you is because I followed somebody that was also in the competition that you won, and then saw your name pop up as the winner, and thought, oh, better have a look at his stuff because he's winning stuff. So
won something, winning stuff's a bit sort of, I don't count Camera Club as winning stuff,
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, it's just, I think like I'm very honest, like, you know, the shot's a special shot and it's a stunning shot, but when I shot it, I didn't phone the wife and was like, "Hey, got an absolute cracker here,"
Yeah,
and that was the actual closing date of UK Landscape Photographer of the Year, which I would enter every year
yep,
and always get rejected and very rarely shortlisted for it. I have had one image in it back in 2016, and when I first took up photography, it wasn't so much the Camera Club and the advanced members that were inspiring me. It was like landscape photographers in England, you know, that were shooting like I'm down here and they're way up here, and that's
yeah,
what you
yeah,
aspire to sort of achieve, you know, and get to that level. Like not necessarily
yeah,
shoot the same stuff, but get to that level. And when I got one in 2016, I was over the moon. So we went over to London and all for it. But I've entered a few images since, shortlisted a few times, but never really any further. So I've only made the book once. I'm shortlisted again this year with 2 images. One that's been popular this year, but I can't name what image it is. It mightn't get into the book if it's won something else. So
what's your most memorable experience when out shooting?
can I name a couple?
Yeah, sure. Whatever. You know, even better if you've got a horror story.
I have a couple of horror stories.
Go for it.
Do you want to go with the horror stories? Because nobody wants to hear a happy story. Well, I'll give you a slight happy story and then a horror story 2 days later. So I'm 42. In February 2020, I became 40, and my wife knew Lofoten was my dream location to shoot. And you know, you're shooting from the Hamlet Bridge, and you're getting the red huts in the mountain in the background, the classic image. But there's all sorts of images, and it's like from Belfast to the north coast away, they're all within sort of an hour of each other. These absolutely stunning images, and quite often you're getting great conditions. And there was a little red hut, an image. It's a little red hut, fishing hut in Ramberg, just outside Hamnoy, and this in the Lofoten Island. And we booked a trip, and that was one of my main images. It wasn't the classic sort of honeypot image, but all photographers take this too. And I had it in my head, you know, again, shooting landscape photography. How often do you have a picture in your head? Often I have a picture in my head of what I want to visualize and what I want to create.
Yep.
And more than 9 times out of 10, it doesn't happen because I can't control the weather. If I had a superpower, that would be what I want, to control the weather exactly how I want it. And so we blizzard one day. We were on the second sort of day in the Lofoten of a 10-day trip. It cost about £5,000 to get there and stuff. You know, you have 2 flights and you have a ferry and stuff over the Lofoten Islands. So we drive from Hamnoy down to Ramberg to shoot this little red hut because I wanted totally isolated. I didn't want to see the background mountains and stuff. I just wanted there to be snow on the bottom of the image, the red hut, and then just nothing, just totally minimalist. And I said to my wife, so I was like, right, this blizzard here, let's get down to Hamburg. It's only half an hour away. I could get this image if the snow keeps up. So we get down to Hamnoy, and it was the most, just in terms of shooting, I've been shooting for 12 years, but in terms of shooting, it was the happiest it's been. My wife and I is there with the umbrella over because I've got the filter over the lens and stuff. I'm taking images, and I know I've got a great image. About a 30th of a second, you get little wisps of snow and stuff and sort of a grey sky, but it's just minimalist. You know, you're not seeing anything behind the red hut. It's beautiful. Get the image and stuff, and again, then another couple of days into the holiday, so it's like the 3rd or 4th day into the holiday, sunrise, and we go to, I think I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this. I think it's called Udaclev Beach, and it's hard to spell. I'll let you know how to spell. I'll send you a message how to spell. And just you should see some of the images from it. It's absolutely stunning. I never got what I wanted, but we're shooting. It was a Sunday morning. I remember it so clearly. Shooting, and the best light's gone because I'm shooting an hour after sunrise. I'm thinking, I know I'm not. You know those times you're not going to get anything, but you're in a stunning location. You've paid loads of money to get there. I'll keep shooting because that's what I'm here to do. And you just never know your luck. Sometimes something happens. Something did happen. So I'm shooting at the rocks, and there's waves coming up, but not too far. And I'm shooting there for about half an hour, different exposures, sort of 1 second, 2 seconds. I'm sort of adjusting the settings to get the different flow of the water. and a wave came in and knocked me off my feet, knocked my tripod off my feet, cameras attached.
Yeah.
I went down, and I swear I was only down for like 2 seconds, 3 seconds at the most. Got back up, and the tripod, the camera was soaked, Nordic salt water.
Did it survive?
Water. Nordic salt water, the best water to ever in a Canon 5D Mark IV. Tripod come up with 2 legs, and you do photography, so you know the tripod's with 3 legs. So the tripod was gone. The filter holder, I don't know how, got attached from the end of the lens with 2 leaf filters attached. So that was about 300 quid worth gone. Mm-hmm. And you know that attitude, that's fine, not happened to me. I got up to the car. My wife thought something bad had happened, but my wife thought somebody had died. Like I was wearing a pair of waders as well. So water was coming out of my eyes, and I was in convulsions. As I couldn't move, and the water was that cold. I don't know if it was a shock or whatnot, but I physically couldn't move my hands. She took the camera off me and dumped it in the back of the car. I was like, we need to get back to the hotel. I need to get this new radiator. Did all that, put it in rice, blah, blah, blah. Camera never worked again. And yeah, so the camera never worked again. Lost the tripod, lost 2 filters, lost this, I think I was using 17 to 40 lenses. I think in all, nothing was insured. In all, I lost about £4,500 worth of camera gear. I'm stuck up on social media again, thinking the camera will be grand. I'd never had an experience like this before. The camera will be grand, it'll work so well. I was sort of convinced, that attitude will not happen to me.
Yeah.
Would anybody have any leaf filters, or do you know where I can buy leaf filters in the Fulton? And there was a guy running a workshop from, I think he was from Derry in Ireland. Mm-hmm. He was running a workshop, and he followed me, and he said, listen, I'm running a workshop here. There's a guy, we're 2 hours away from where you're staying. He can lend you filters, he can lend you a tripod and the filter holder. I was like, happy days. Give us your address, we'll come down tonight, because he was going the next day.
Yeah, amazing.
So we drove down, and the guy says, I don't think your camera's going to work again. Can you buy another camera? And I said, no, I can't buy another camera. We'll spend a load of money to come here. I haven't won the lotto, so
yep.
He says, is there anybody that could lend you a camera, because of another guy coming out in a couple of days' time? So I was like, well, my dad's got a 5D Mark II. So long story short, another guy coming out on this fella from Derry's workshop brought my dad's camera out. So I was able to use a mixture of my dad's camera and some of my gear that survived, and another guy, Andy Coulter's gear that he lent me. So it was a stopgap, but I couldn't relax after. I couldn't make any images that I wanted to. The only thing that survived was the images from the first couple of days, and I was so glad, because if I could pick one thing to survive in hindsight, it would be
you want a memory card to survive.
Yeah, because I think I got probably my personally favorite image that I've ever shot. I call it Surviving the Elements, and it's one of those images where it was a blizzard, so I actually titled the image Surviving the Elements when I was shooting, not because of what happened a couple of days later, but then again it had a deeper meaning, Yeah, so from hero to zero in like 2 days, it was crazy. So I have unfinished business with the Fulton, and I want to get out there to shoot again. So
definitely.
If anybody's listening to the podcast and wants to send me some money, I'm willing to take another trip there. Yeah. No, it's on the list.
If they're sending money, I'll let it filter through my account first.
Oh yeah, go through your insurance. I'll take a small cut. No, but that it's the Fulton is just so beautiful. Like, it's everywhere you turn, it's just beauty. It's
one of those iconic places that it doesn't matter which way you face. There's a shot. Yeah.
I'll send you that image, Surviving the Elements.
Yeah, perfect.
To use for this, but it's definitely one of my favorites. So pleased that it survived, and I knew the camera was dead after a couple of days, and I was just waiting on my dad's camera coming to try the memory card. When I knew that the images were safe, I was happy. Like,
yeah, no, that's incredible. What have you learned about the world through photography?
Salt water is bad for cameras. It's the first thing, What have I learned about the world of photography? well, that experience there, like, you know, social media can be a positive place, because I mean, without social media, I wouldn't have my dad's camera. I
that
wouldn't
would
have
never
had
have happened.
I wouldn't have my stuff. But it can also be a negative place as well. You know, I've had people send me abusive messages on social media. I don't know, like, so from I started taking landscape photographs, I don't know that it answers the question, but I take a lot more in terms of when I'm out on location. I'll just find myself someday sitting in work looking at the office and going, "Jesus, look how quick those clouds are moving." That would be a great long exposure.
Yep.
You take more interest in the little things, which are really the big things, like the landscape and looking after it and stuff. You take more interest in that there, whereas before, landscape photography, I would never have thought of stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, you wouldn't notice it.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah.
If you have any way of leading me on to a tangent to answer that question better, you know, I can do that and you can edit this out.
That's fine.
Yeah, you're going to have like a 30-minute podcast here of me crying about an accident.
All good. It's all good. Most of this will go in.
Yes. I'm not going to listen to this back.
It's all right. I never
I'll be
do.
very embarrassed. And then there's the accident as well, which is going to be bad.
Once I finish the overall edit, I never listen to them again.
That's probably a good thing in this case.
Okay.
You've had some great, like Rachel Stewart, isn't it?
Yeah, Rachel was on a few weeks ago. Had Alistair Ben.
Alistair Ben, love his work.
Yeah, I've had quite a few. You know, I've been fortunate enough to connect with quite a few people, and you know, for me, I mean, this started as a COVID project. We were in lockdown for 165 days. Couldn't go more than 5 kilometres away, and where I live is suburban Sydney, and I'm not a suburban photographer. I know there's people out there that do that sort of urban, banal, you know, shots of telegraph poles, or you know, a tree.
It's a telegraph pole. It doesn't interest me either. I have to say, I was looking through your work whenever you asked me to do this. And I think there's an NFT for sale on Foundation. The one of Sydney Harbour is absolutely stunning. But see, I like how it looks in Foundation before you click into it. See that square crop? I think it's much better. You need to see it bigger, but if you've looked, you know, you've asked me to do this because of that competition win, but I would be partial to a square crop. I quite like a square crop. I don't know why, and I think the more I take images in square, the more I start to see in square. And so I'm subconsciously looking for square crops, but I think that is an absolutely stunning square crop image. The colour is lovely. Like, that's somewhere I would love to photograph.
Well, thanks very much for that. I mean, I've been. It's funny. Some stuff I'll leave in the standard 3x2, but you know, quite a lot of stuff recently. I've been sort of looking at different crops, and you know, I'm sort of being attracted more to that square 1x1 to, you know, just, you know, nail into, you know, that focus point in the image. And you know,
lovely as well when you print an image and you have a nice white border around, a natural white border around an image. It's so clean looking, so it is.
Well, I've got one on the wall of Glasshouse Rocks, which is about 4 or 5 hours south of where I live, and stunning sort of sea stacks. One of them's got this sort of lovely curve. It actually looks a bit like a massive wave breaking on the shore. But I've got, you know, that done in a square crop on the wall, as you said, with that white border around. And,
How far away from you would that be?
That's about 4 hours, 5 hours drive from my place.
You would be like me then. You would just no bother, just get in the car and go.
Oh, absolutely. If I think I can get there, I've actually just recently invested in a motorhome, so I'm going to be planning to travel around and live in that rather than in a house.
Are you allowed to swear in this podcast? No, you're making me jealous again.
I don't care. Yeah,
really? But I was going to call you a bastard there because you're retired or you're not working. Your kids are growing up. And I have a motorhome, so you're
I'm rubbing it in. I know.
I'm like, maybe get out once this month, the Hornhead. And I'm so excited for tomorrow night to get out and shoot, like, but if it's anything like last time, I'll be coming back with my tail between my legs because I'm disappointed, but I have a good feeling about tomorrow night. But
Yeah.
I would love to get a Volkswagen. I'm a Volkswagen kind of guy. I have a 1963 Volkswagen Beetle.
Lovely.
And
Now I'm the jealous one.
no, well, yeah, because of her Beetle love bug, growing up as a child, born in 1980. So it was all because that was an eBay purchase. But I would love, if I won the lotto, I used to say, well, if I won the lotto, I would still get a 1960s Volkswagen camper, but I would also get a modern one, and I would be quitting my job and just going around shooting. I'd be traveling all over England, all over Ireland, Scotland, and making images.
That was my original plan, and then I finished up work, and it was kind of like, okay, well, now's the time. If I'm going to do it, got to do it. So the wife and I are off on a trip. We take delivery in November, so looking forward to getting out there and getting into some new adventures there, and not having to drive 5 hours just to get a sunrise.
Yeah. It's
drive 5 hours, park up, and then walk to the sunrise from the car park.
Levi was born in June, so it was April. It was 2 months before. That was my cut-off point. Like, I would sometimes go away and sleep in the car with maybe one other photography buddy, and we would just wind the seats back, sleeping bag, and sleep in the car for a night or two. To make images, maybe to Connemara or something. But I went by myself for the first time ever there back in, I think it was April, and it was the first time we did it on my own. I felt a bit nervous, sleeping in the car 2 nights on your own, but because normally you have company. But I do 12-hour shifts at the weekend, as I was saying, with a second job, so I'm sort of used to my own company. So although I do like being out in the landscape with friends, tomorrow night I go with 2 friends to the location, but it's something quite refreshing about going down on my own to Connemara for 2 days on my own. And I would, surprisingly, for being in the arsehole of nowhere in Ireland, certain parts you could get decent enough to signal to FaceTime the way, so you could actually have a conversation with somebody, so you weren't totally alone, but it was nice. And that's something I plan to do more often, but I'd love to get a camper van. It would have to be Volkswagen because, but I would love to get a camper van, and the beauty of just being able to wake up. I wouldn't be doing those Instagram shots though, with you open the back doors and you're taking pictures of the bottom of your legs. That turns me on. That's not what I would be banned for.
No, that's not what it's for. It's just for sleeping in. They won't. Yeah, I mean, there might be the odd shot of the van when I take delivery, but beyond that, I don't plan to take many shots of that. No. It's boring.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, but yeah, that's brilliant, man. I'd love to. There's a Volkswagen van. This is turned into a different podcast, but there's a Volkswagen van for like 59 grand or something down close to where we live, and the colour's lovely. And I was selling my wife for. I was like, could we afford it? What about I sell my car? How much would I pay a month? But it's never going to happen,
No, you never know. You never know you like.
Not yet. You need to win a few more competitions, wouldn't you?
Well, that's it. Yeah.
Get famous.
Definitely. You mentioned. Do you do a lot of printing of your work? Do you print your own, or do you use a service? Or?
I don't print my own. I use a company in Scotland, Glasgow, that print at Loxley. Actually, somebody contacted me that's seen an image on Twitter today, and sometimes as a photographer you get a comment, is a print available of this, and you say yes, you're sending me a message, and then they reply and say, well, sure, I'll have a look and see, and then you never hear from them again. But it's the lady actually ordered 2 prints, so 2 prints are going off to I think it's Chicago. So I would get the odd print sale and stuff. I love, there's nothing more. The only thing that beats seeing an absolutely what you believe is a cracker image in the back of your camera is seeing the final print on a nice textured fine art paper. Absolutely. Lovely border around it, and go large. Like, I love a large print. Like, I've a couple of 2 large prints in the house of my own stuff. One of Guggenbarra and one of the Red Hut in the Floating. And they're 30 by 30, and then I think something like 36 by 46 or something like that down in the living room. But I love a large print and on lovely texture paper. I think I know there's all this thing about selling JPEGs and stuff on Twitter and on NFTs and stuff, but nothing for me. Like, other than seeing the image in the back of the camera, which you truly believe is a stunner, is then seeing it eventually printed properly on a beautiful paper. It's such a rewarding feeling. That's why you do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, if there's one message anyone can get out of, this podcast is, print your work. It's, I think it is the epitome of why you do what you do.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I think I get so nervous talking in front of people and stuff, and knowing that, well, when people see my name, maybe not many people will listen to this one because they don't know who I am, but if anybody gets anything from it, it's like they'll hear the passion when I talk about printing and stuff. I just love it,
Yeah, same.
Everybody should print a shot that they're proud of, no matter what level they are.
Absolutely agree. Have you ever hit a creative wall?
Lots.
So what have you done to handle that, and have you got yourself out of it?
Before Levi came along, my son, my motto would be to, excuse the language, I'm Irish, shoot through the shit. I would always say, like, it's like, like you go through a barn run of you go out and you're shooting, and
yep,
you're checking conditions, and you're just not getting what you're promised on weather apps and well, you always get what you're promised on test. You're just not getting what you want, the lighter for a certain location and stuff. And everybody goes through barn runs, and just keep shooting through it, because if you don't leave the house and you don't take your camera out, you're not going to get an image. You have no chance. So I would just try and shoot as much as possible, and eventually you'll just get that one image that sort of gets you back on track. And I would think I would be a confidence photographer. Like, so I think once I produce one decent image, sort of, I maybe get a wee run of decent images over the period of a few months, and then I mightn't get anything for a couple of months. For images that I truly love, like, as I say, there's a handful of my portfolio that I would truly properly love and think that are right up there, like, could compete against other landscapes that I respect all over the world, but they're more rare. Like, the ones that I would class as portfolio images, they're more rare. Maybe if I got maybe 4 of those a year, I'd be over the moon.
Yeah.
They're not so frequent.
Totally with you on that. I don't think there's anything better than sort of getting that sort of breakthrough image that might not necessarily be the portfolio image, but it's one that you think, yep, that's good enough, and then you tend to get a run on after that. It's a nice feeling when you get there. Yeah,
like, it's, I've mentioned before about music, and music would inspire me, and taking photographs. Like, I would name a lot of my images after song titles or song lyrics. Like, my wife and I would always be going to gigs and stuff. And yeah, you get a band and they release an album, and there's maybe 3 or 4 singles. It's like, yep, that's my year. There's maybe 3 or 4 singles that are good enough to be like portfolio images, and then you get some album tracks, and then you get some B-sides that you might work on a couple of years later, kind of thing.
Yep, totally.
Bet you've never heard anybody use that sort of example before.
I can honestly say that it is a first, so well done.
I've always had that in my head, though. Honestly, I think it's a music thing. Like I say, we're big music lovers, and
yeah,
it just links with me. It sits with me. I've always sort of believed that. Not every image you can shoot is portfolio image, and you need to sort of get over that. I used to get sort of like, when you go out on field and you come back, when you first start out, and you're like, well, did you get any good images today? Oh yeah, maybe got like 2 or 3. If I got 2 or 3 images in the space of 6 months that I was happy with, now I'll be over the moon. So it changes. Not everything can be personally satisfying, I suppose.
No, absolutely. Have you ever put together, I guess, that the album, whether it's the greatest hits or whether it's a mix of A and B sides? Have you ever put together or gone out to shoot in that way, so that you're sort of putting together a cohesive project, I guess, as opposed to, okay, well, here's a shot from, location X, and here's a shot from location Y. Have you ever done anything like that in your career?
Like little projects?
Yeah.
A couple, like I have, that 500px.
Mm-hmm.
I shot an image down in Galway in 2016. It was another overnighter in the car with my wife and our little dog at the time, Lola, and I got a nice image. It was a 26-minute exposure of a diving platform in Galway, obviously at the water. And I got what I thought was a lovely image, square image and stuff. And I had it in the living room for a couple of years before I sold it, and loved the image. And after I made that image, I thought, well, I know everybody again and Twitter's talk about collections and stuff. I'm sure you'll maybe talk about that later on, but I thought it would be a nice collection of images, square seascapes. Now, I've never done anything with it other than have it on my 500px as a folder, square seascapes, and just started working on that there. But a more fixed project would be a work in social housing. That would be my full-time job. So at the weekends, I would be like a relief concierge in a high-rise blocks of multi-story social housing tenants. So there'd be sort of 12 floors. Be talking about 40 tenants in each. Mm-hmm. And from about 2013 to 2016, I had a project. I was started off as a one-off portrait with one of the tenants, and I called it Stories, as in spelled like multi-stories, but stories from the high-rise, because each image told a story of different tenants. Sort of, I don't attach a story to each image, but I think any viewer could sort of see that there's a story behind each image and maybe come up with their own. It was all mono, and I don't shoot an awful lot of mono work, but it was all black and white. And yeah, it's on my website actually. There's about half of it's on my website. I don't have a lot of portraiture on my website now, but I would look at that there. That's good. Like, some of the tenants now have passed on and stuff, so they could be shot now, they could be shot 20 years ago. You wouldn't know, But there's quite a lot of sort of feeling and emotion in those. So I don't do an awful lot of set sort of projects, I have to say now. A lot of it would be locations and just me trying to come up with something that I think fits the location and also sort of suits my style of work.
Yeah, sure. No, it's I'm fascinated by people that are able to go and bring together, as I say, that album that's a cohesive piece of work that's multiple images where they've concentrated on building that particular project. And I mean, it's something I've worked on a couple myself, and I'm reasonably happy with a couple of them, but I think it's a very difficult thing to do, is to bring together, as I say, something that's cohesive around a particular theme or whatever, and pull together a number of different images that follow that theme.
I think the brief is really key, isn't it? You need to have a set brief, and you need to sort of know exactly what you want, and otherwise you can veer off and it can go sort of on tangents. Kind of like
other things get in the way. I'm bit like a squirrel. Oh, look over there! I'm gonna go.
I was going to say, kind of like when you ask me a question, and I start answering that question half how you want, and then I go off on a tangent about another story.
That's what this podcast is all about. It's all about tangents and the divergence of thinking about how you do what you do. It's I guess one of the things that I see as important is giving people a bit of a platform to have their say about what they feel about their photography or other things. Yeah. And I'll ask you a couple of questions about some other things a little bit later. Right now, what do you see as the biggest challenge facing photography?
I don't know that I'm qualified to answer that, to be honest. I don't. I'm just one photographer from Belfast.
Okay.
I really don't know. What do you see?
I personally think one of the biggest challenges at the moment is probably climate change for landscape photographers in particular. But I think that's probably too big a problem to delve in too much today. But for me, I think one of the important things landscape photographers can do is to bring attention to some of the issues that climate change is sort of brought up. And for me, that's probably one of the most important things a landscape photographer should be not necessarily thinking about all the time, but working towards bringing attention to some of those issues.
Yeah,
I don't know that I'm achieving that myself, but I definitely think it's something that's worth adding our voice, in the overall conversation. What's your favourite thing about being a photographer?
Producing work that you're proud of, producing an image that you're personally proud of. Like, it's nice. Social media, as I said, it's nice when you get likes or comments. Don't get me wrong, everybody likes that, but you take it with a pinch of salt. It's nice to get a print sale. That's lovely. Because somebody likes your work enough. It's not you. It's going to put it on the wall. It's nice to win something. Yeah, that every time I talk about that, World Landscape Photographer 2022, there's a big smile on my face, and every time my wife mentions it, I get a big smile on my face, because I never thought anything like that would happen to me. Like, but you're good and stuff, but you don't think one of those competitions will land on your doorstep, kind of thing. Or
sure,
could have listened to different judges, or same judges on a different day could have picked one of the other 50 stunning images, but I got lucky. But producing images that I'm proud of that's why I'm a photographer. That's why I do it. I produce work for me first and foremost. If I like it, then that's me happy, So if somebody could ask me now whether I would want to produce an image that I'm 100% happy with and I personally love and I love for a lot of years, or would I produce a good image that's going to sell for a couple of £1,000, I'd pick the first one. I'd want one that I'm happy with. So I do it for me first and foremost. So to produce work that I'm proud of would be my goal. That's what I do.
Yeah, fantastic. What's the least favourite thing about being a photographer?
Not getting out with a newborn. Not having a camera van, having 2 jobs. No, not the constant, but the regular visits to long, further away locations when you don't get what you want, image-wise. But again, that has positives too, because when you do get that image, it makes it all worth it. You realise the struggle you went through to make the image. It's not just you don't turn up and get an image first time every time. These sort of things, expensive gear, salt water. Not mixing with that gear. That's bring a bit of humor to the podcast. Like there's a long time that I couldn't have a joke about that incident, So can have a joke about it now. I was wearing waders that day. Sorry to go back to that story. So if I went into the water, I wasn't coming back out, because the water was it was pretty bad. I put myself in some risky positions to get an image before, and I have an actual video of about 2 minutes before that wave came in and took me off my feet, and it looked like there was no danger. Like, I was in the same spot for 20 minutes to half an hour. It didn't look accidents on location. It's an expensive hobby, and another thing as well. Like, I don't think a lot of people take into consideration is when you're driving away to these faraway locations, like everything's on the increase, like fuel, diesel, petrol, it's on the increase. It is an expensive passion, and some people that aren't doing it, wouldn't even think of that,
Yeah, no,
but again, like, all of that's gone. So when you get the shot in the back of the camera and you see it on a big print, who cares? You've thought what you did for, That's why I did. That's why I spent all my money on gear that I probably only half know how to use, because, like, as I said before, like, I'm not in the gear. I don't have to have the best camera on the market. Like, I shoot with a 5D Mark IV at the moment, but I do want to upgrade very, very, very soon. But I don't have to. It's just so that I know, like, when I print my work, it's going to be of a good standard, But, like, I don't get bogged down with sort of the technicalities of gear and all of this, Again, going back to mood and emotion, my photography is driven by that, not by settings and all this kind of stuff, I'm not one of those.
What do you like to do when you're not out shooting?
Listen to music. hold my son on my chest, Netflix with my wife.
That.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it won't last for long because he's pretty tall. I'm 6'3", my wife's like 5'11", so he's going to outgrow my chest length quite soon. So I'll get all that while I can, and there'll be plenty of time to shoot after. Family time, gigs, travel, but travel again goes back to photography. Like a lot of our destinations will be geared towards me getting certain images. Which my wife is amazing at, she's very forgiving that way,
Yeah, I think that's a very important thing, as a forgiving partner for photographers, either that or another photographer.
Yeah. Well, like when we were in city breaks, this is how good my wife is. We were in Amsterdam back in 2019, I think. September 19, and there was a certain ship that I wanted, and I went a couple of times and wasn't getting it. I was the canal and I wanted light trails of the boats going past and stuff.
Yep.
And my wife was we got there before sunset and we went over, and there was a small window in September where you can get the shot before it goes too dark and the street lights are too bright, and it's just, you can't get it all in the one image. And I like to get everything in the one exposure. I don't do multiple exposures and all of that stuff. So we went into the wee restaurant across the way, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to order anything. Number one, I'm a really picky eater and I won't eat anything here, although it's a lovely restaurant. Number two, if I order anything, even a Diet Coke, I'm going to miss my shot here. So she is a saint, and she stayed and she sat and ate on her own while I was across the street shooting. Yeah, so that's how amazing she is. So that shot
braver man than I.
Yeah, thank God I got a shot that night. And she's brilliant with Google Maps and all. Seeing me with technology, as I said, I'm not into gear and all that. I couldn't find my way in the Belfast city centre, so she's my eyes and ears when we went city breaks and stuff. She's the brains and I'm the creative side.
Fair enough. What tips what's one tip that you have for somebody that's just starting out in landscape photography?
Look at good work. Look at work that inspires you, and you might think it's out of reach, but keep looking at that work and keep striving to sort of reach those levels. You could join a local camera club. I'm pretty sure they have them all over the world. But I know it's not for everybody, but it's great to get that one-on-one stuff. Like when I joined the camera club, I was mentored, and I think 2 years ago I started mentoring people as well, because I get as much enjoyment out of them getting a good image and winning a competition in the camera club as I would of winning something. So soak things up, take on board what people with more experience are saying, and be like a sponge. I know that sounds like it's a cliche, but honestly, like that's the way you improve. If you think everything you do is amazing.
Yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. Constantly look at good stuff and be inspired. Look at the best, and if you put your mind to it, you can reach a certain level. I don't care what anybody says.
Definitely. Are there any photographers out there you think I should be talking to?
I mentioned that I was inspired by a lot of UK photographers. Neil Burnell, I'm sure you know Neil Burnell's work. He's a worldly, I would class as a world-class photographer. Rachel Talibart. I know this is landscape photography world, but my favorite photographer is actually Maria Sparbova.
Okay.
Do you know her? Do you know her work? No.
I know some of her work. I don't know her personally.
She did. No, I don't know her personally either. I wish she did. She's amazing. She's unbelievable. I have a couple of her books and stuff, like a swimming pool series and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear her speak about work, because I've heard Neil Burnell and I've heard Rachel Talibart on podcasts before, but she doesn't do landscape photography. So, but it's important to be inspired by other stuff other than just what you shoot. Like, it's funny.
Absolutely.
I don't know why. I don't know why she's my favorite photographer. Well, I do. I love her images. They're just so clean in the colors and the tone and stuff. And some of her stuff would be square crops as well, actually. But Neil Burnell would be amazing to get on the podcast. Or Rachel Talibart's just, they're a class above.
Yeah, thanks for that. I got one more question for you, and for some people that listen, it's the most important question I can ask. Do you like pineapple on pizza?
No chance. My wife does. No.
It's a no.
Ham peppers, sweet corn, and it has to be thin and crispy. I'm very picky.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm definitely a thin and crispy guy. Can't do the thick crust.
Do you like pineapple and sweet corn? Or do you like pineapple and pizza?
I won't order it myself, but if it's there and why not? But I won't pick it off like some people.
Right. Well, okay. So yeah, if I'm ordering a pizza, it's like a small pizza. My wife's ordering a small pizza, and mine would have ham, peppers, sweet corn, and hers would have pineapple, peppers, and sweet corn. And she's not eating all of hers. I will pick off the pineapple and eat the rest of hers. But you can still taste the pineapple, so it's still a bit wrong. Hot and cold doesn't go. It has no. Why do you ask that question? That's the best.
I like if the pineapple's on it, it's got to be hot. It can't be cold.
No, it's still wrong. The texture, no.
No. Okay, fair enough.
Good question.
Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me today, Paul. It's been wonderful getting to know you a little bit better and getting to know some of your work. Where can people find what you do?
Social media, Twitter at P Killeen. Nobody will know how to spell it because I can't pronounce it. Photo. Paul Killeen Photography on Instagram, and the same on Twitter, but I don't really use it. And I've obviously my website as well, www.paulkilleenphotography.com. But yeah, my surname's a weird one, so I don't think anybody's going to come find me now.
That's all right. I'll put links to everything in the show notes, so hopefully you might get another few followers.
Make sure you spell the surname correctly.
Absolutely.
You pronounced it correctly anyway, so fair play.
All right. Thanks very much, mate.
Thank you, man. Cheers.
Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show, and keep listening because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work in this podcast at grantswinburnphotography.com. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. I'm Grant Swinburne. Hope to see you out shooting soon.